I'm the new kid on the block. My wife and I rented an apartment in the Octagon.
What's your name?
My name is Dave Campbell. And we rented an apartment in the Octagon 3 months ago. We're part-time residents here. We live full-time out in Greenport on the North Fork. And we grew up in the Upper East Side and the other side of the river, so we know the neighborhood all over the campus. We're learning about Roosevelt Island. I came to, aside from having general interest in learning what's going on, I got an email in my building announcing this event. And they said that apparently there's some money that's going to be available for capital projects or for improvement projects. And they listed a couple, one which was the restoration of the guardrail along the river walk. And I came to support that because I think that that's the one thing everybody sees, whether you live here or you're visiting here, and the condition of that rail sends a message that there's a lack of care for the public facilities. And I think in terms of attracting business to the Main Street, that it starts with the way that the municipality, in this case the RIOC, maintains its own facilities. And to allow that to degrade the way it has, this area behind the garbage collection area, those are problems. And I think if there's money that's out there to spend, that would be a very good thing to spend on. I think that will help set the stage for what you're all talking about. I do have some experience in this. I was mayor in Greenport for 13 years. Served in a variety of other public service positions in both.
Sign this man up.
We see that hat, we just don't see it in the ring. What's going on? What was the question? Yeah, there wasn't a question there, Dave. Do you have a
Well, it was a
question?
question. Yeah, I understand that there's some money available for improving the island. Is that something that you would consider spending it on?
Anybody got an answer for you?
So my understanding is that actually the RIOC has already approved the construction of the seawall that's supposed to be happening over the.
It's not the seawall.
Defense.
That's already, but that's already been done, right?
Go right there.
Sorry to do that. We approved it years ago. It keeps rolling over and rolling over and rolling over in the budget, and given that, I do have a question, okay? I guess there's good news and bad news. You talked about the government's money and budget cuts and all. None of that's gonna affect them. Every nickel that gets spent on the island, it comes from the island. We are outside the state budget, we're outside of the federal budget, totally ours to control, and we got tons of money.
Spend it.
I'd love to spend it. Problem, as I see it, now, I don't know how you guys can address it, but I want you to think about it and tell me if you have any ideas. We're still part of the state. One of the things you talked about, making this a community first and having the fields available, they're not renting the fields to get the money from Zog Sports. They're renting the fields because they feel that this is state land and everybody in New York State should be able to use it, and it's a first come, first served. They give the youth center first shot at it, and then anybody else that wants to use it can. I don't agree with that philosophy. I think it ought to be the neighborhood first, but there's a state feeling that it should. That's what you're gonna come up against most often. The railings. We approve it, it goes out in the budget, they send out RFPs, 4 companies bid, there's something wrong with the RFP, we do it again, then they decide to divert the money to something else, and then the tram needs some, and it keeps going this way and that way. That's what you guys are gonna have to contend with. It's more the state influence over the local influence. We can't just say we're doing it. Everything takes forever. The elevator at the tram, oh my God, how long has that thing been going on and on?
3 years plus.
Easily. People don't want to bid on our jobs. I think that's gotta be a problem with us. Go ahead, yeah, I'm taking over, sorry.
I'll address it because I was part of an organization that did an RFP for the youth center. So I've been through the process. I stayed up all night, not all night, but I stayed up worked a lot of hours, a couple of nights to get it done. And everything was submitted, and then we hear, oh, it's going to be another RFP some other time. we gotta fix the system. You know, we gotta make sure that it works, that the submission works, and after a submission, a decision's made. Because you gotta do that, because things have to get done. It's worse than, let's call that the east side, right? But worse than the east side is the west side. That's just an embarrassment on the area next, facing Queens. You know, there it's really hard to walk around there. I've tried to, did I?
Yeah.
Why don't we just go with that, yeah, east and west.
Queens side.
Yeah, the east side.
East side, go with that.
Yeah, see, if I did that, I'd be a mapologist. Right? Let's just say that the worst is there. I've tried to ride my bike. I know I'm fat, but I like to ride my bike. And I've tried to ride my bike down there, and I can't tell you how many times I've fallen or banged something, and it's just unreasonable. You know, it's when my older daughter, who's 11, my younger daughter's not even 5, so she doesn't get to ride her bike by herself. My older daughter, when she started to ride her bike by herself, I had to lay out areas that she was not allowed to ride, not because she was bad, but because I just didn't trust the road, because there's no path. That's screwed up. There's no reason for that. And if we have the funding, that should be fixed. Let's fix it. Do I have the magic way it's gonna happen? Not yet, but we'll fix it.
That wand.
Well, no, now we don't have one. Now we have to figure out, but I think part of it is streamlining the process. And I think that's what we have. And as I said, thankfully, you got 4 people here who want to do it. You know, we're actually willing to put in our time. I don't know these people, but I do know I would like to serve with them, because we do want to do this, and clearly someone has to. And, you know, let it be us.
Hello, my name is Scott Piro. I am a new member of the Roosevelt Island Residents Association, Common Council. And I wrote the email that brought you here.
Thank
I live in the Octagon.
Thank you.
So that makes me feel great. I take it real seriously, and we have a very volunteer spirit towards it. So there are 2 issues that are the reasons behind why I joined the Common Council. And I'm working on them in committees. So I'm not saying them here just so that, you know, I'm working to develop plans that we're going to present to you. But I figure I might as well take advantage of introducing myself to you, and so that, you know, you've heard these before. The first is the traffic situation around the Octagon on both sides. On the northern end, on this little access road that separates the Octagon from Kohler Hospital, it's very narrow, there's no shoulder, people ignore the stop signs and they speed, and if you are, for example, picking up waste from a dog and you step with one leg into the road, not looking behind you, you could get hit by a car very easily. And I would like to see speed bumps put there. And the similar situation is, I know there's going to be construction now with this water stuff, but even without that, right now, people are using the Octagon parking lot to either go to that water treatment place or the church. And there is a stop sign one way entering. They ignore it, they drive right through it. There's no stop sign around the corner. There is a daycare center there, and there's no sidewalk for part of it. And so people are walking all the time in the parking lot, and it's an accident waiting to happen. And so that's my first concern. My other concern involves the dog parks. I'm working also with Rick to get a little publicity for that. But they are not watered. There are sprinklers all around the island, but not there. There are, because the dogs dig, there are now a big gap between the fence and the actual ground that should be, you know, groundskeepers should fill that in. And the tables that are in both dog parks are a kind of mesh that is harmful to the dogs because their toenails get caught on it. You know, I understand that there used to be no dogs on the island, and it's a relatively new thing. But you know, they are here now, and as the population grows, the pet population will grow, and we should have nice places that are safe and clean and well maintained for people who have pets. Thanks.
Anybody else have a question
I'd
or
like to
statement?
comment on that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, please.
So I'll comment on that from a public safety perspective. I mean, I served in law enforcement long enough to know how to abate some of those things. And I served in K-9 for 15 years, so I'm definitely seasoned with respect to the dog issues. First of all, as far as traffic, let's say this. These are good problems to have. If you look at the rest of the boroughs, and I'm not comparing this, because our quality of life here is phenomenal. And half of my team that I lead at Bloomberg are former NYPD guys, and we spend a lot of time bitching and moaning about the boroughs and how bad they are with law enforcement. We have it really good here. Having said that, we could be much better. And for the amount of money that we pay in taxes and the amount of money that it costs to live here, we should get better. And one of the things we need to have with respect to traffic calming devices, it doesn't cost a heck of a lot of money. You don't even have to install a permanent speed bump. What it requires is effective law enforcement that's going there as a traffic calming device by presence. That's how you start. If people start getting either cited or at least stopped and advised that they're exceeding the speed limit or doing something wrong by crossing over a stop sign or going into an area they shouldn't be going into, the word gets around very quickly. But you gotta get the cops out there to do that. The public safety team needs to get out there to enforce those things. They can't just stand there at a corner on their cell phone in a fixed position. That's one thing. Next is in terms of the dog parks, I think you're absolutely right. I use the dog parks myself. I run down there by the Octagon. I know exactly what you're talking about. It is dangerous, especially during early morning hours or late evening hours. They do need to put something there as far as calming. As far as the dog parks, I would recommend that they take those tables out and put new ones in, and they do need to do some maintenance. And let's face it, island-wide, they need to do some maintenance. I run here and walk around with my baby, and I'm fascinated that, and let me tell you, I'm not a prude, and even I'm a former cop and a Marine and all that. I'm not the big right-wing conservative guy that you might think I would be. I'm all for legalizing pot if somebody's going to use it in their home. But God damn it, I shouldn't have to be smelling pot right here as I'm sitting here right now, and I shouldn't be smelling it when I'm walking with my child. Okay? And I also shouldn't have to worry about where I'm walking because it's filthy and smells like urine. My daughter was here visiting from Seattle last week. We went into the motor park. She said, "Why does it smell like pee in here?" That's absurd. So we need to do a better job of maintenance. And that goes back to what Margie was talking about with respect to earmarking funds and effective use of funds. So I'd like to know exactly where resources are being applied and why are we not applying them to maintenance and to fixes and to things that need to be maintained. If you're gonna fix a park, or if you're gonna make a park, then you got the responsibility to maintain that park. And that's what we have to hold the RIOC and the board accountable.